Mama's book Nook.
The Story of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter, illustrated by Lisa McCue. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there, and he was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe among the potatoes. He ran on 4 legs then and went faster, and he might have gotten away altogether if he had not run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and cried. His sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who begged him to save himself. Mr. McGregor had a basket and was about to pop it on top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind. He rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a watering can. It would have been the perfect hiding place if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, and he began to search it carefully. Then Peter sneezed, "Achoo!" and Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. Peter was trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. He was also very damp from sitting in that can. He tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. He came to a pond where a white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin Benjamin Bunny. He turned back towards the tool shed when he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, scratch, scritch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes. When nothing happened, he came out and saw Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter started running as fast as he could go. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter didn't stop running till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down on the floor and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in 2 weeks. Peter did not feel very well that evening. His mother put him to bed and gave him a dose of chamomile tea, 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper.
Please like and subscribe to Mama's book Nook.